All right, I want to bring you through one of the kitchens I designed, and I want to explain a few key details on why we made certain decisions, so maybe it'll help you on your future projects. A couple things to note. The first thing you might notice is the windows. So originally this kitchen was just along this wall. This back room didn't exist, and these windows were open free. We wanted to create more counter space, and we wanted to be able to walk into this back room once we made it. So we made the decision not to replace the windows, and that's going to be kind of controversial with some people, but being on a budget, we also were in a historic neighborhood, and changing the exterior of the home was not an option. So we came up with this solution of running the countertop right up to the window as you'd expect, but instead of doing a backsplash, we stuck to the 3-inch riser on the countertop. Not only did this save money because we no longer had to do a backsplash, but it also creates an endpoint where things won't roll off. It kind of keeps the kitchen contained and works really well for the window. You still can open the window by, reaching down here and pulling up the blinds. So kind of a creative method as opposed to taking out the windows and restructuring the whole exterior of the house. We also did that over here. And we even went a step further, and the fridge actually goes a little past the window. Again, I know that's going to be controversial. It looks worse than it is. This window is much smaller than what this is. It's probably only like, 6 inches or so back there that's covered. But the reality is this window is looking at another house. And I do believe that a tenant especially is going to want to have the countertop space, a slightly bigger fridge, because this specific apartment has a ton of windows already. I think this is a sacrifice they'd be willing to take. And again, it saved a lot of money on our end. And because of that, we were able to offer higher end appliances and higher end finishes. Few other things to note. We went with all stainless steel appliances. That's just kind of honestly what everyone should be doing in this day and age. It doesn't cost a whole lot more, but adds a whole different level to the kitchen. If we went with older looking appliances, it just wouldn't sell all the work that went into this kitchen. Specifically on the fridge, again, this looks like a much higher end fridge, but it doesn't have a water maker, it doesn't have an ice maker, but it does have great storage. And for being a 1-bed, 1-bath, it's gonna be perfect. Another key decision we made was solid wood cabinets. Again, this is something I used to think would be too expensive for what we were trying to do. But after I started looking at the options at Home Depot, Lowe's, and then compared it to some specific cabinet shops, I actually found them to be almost identical priced, but much higher end. So if you compare the price of this whole kitchen from a cabinet standpoint with our cabinet company versus what we'd get from Lowe's, it would actually be about the same, but we're getting solid wood cabinets now and soft close. So the soft close will help keep the cabinets lasting longer. The solid wood, of course, will just naturally make them last longer, and tenants will feel that difference. It's a small detail that maybe when they first walk through, they won't notice, but when they go to someone else's house and they go to close the cabinet, you know when it's not a soft close, and you're like, ooh, that's a little rough. Couple other decisions in here. We did go with an oversized sink. It's not massive, but it's about, I think it's a 28-inch sink. It's the biggest sink we could fit in a 30-inch cabinet. This is a 30-inch kitchen cabinet. I think it's about a 28-inch sink. And the reason we did that is, again, I think we all have been in that situation where we have a ton of dishes, and nothing's more frustrating than when it's not deep enough and your plates are falling over and you have to use the whole side. We want to keep everything contained. That also helps with just splashing, not going out where it shouldn't be, on the wood, on the drywall. Hopefully kind of keep it contained the best it can. As I explained or mentioned before, the kitchen initially was just up against this wall. So it was stove, refrigerator, sink, and a little bit of countertop space. Didn't give you a whole lot to work with between this wall and this wall. So we knew initially we had to rip that out and restructure it. Unfortunately, this apartment is very small. So our alternative to that, even without this room, was to turn the whole kitchen. It would give us both walls to work with. And we essentially ended up with an old school galley kitchen. But instead of closing it in, we decided not to put cabinets on this wall. We turned it and brought out the countertop all the way so we had a little overhang so 2 stools could fit here, and that invites the whole living room in. So it becomes one open air living room kitchen situation as opposed to a tight galley or even worse, just a really small kitchenette. I mentioned this back room a few times now, and in here, this room didn't exist or wasn't a part of this apartment. And I want this to be a good reminder of when you're renovating a property, question what's behind a wall. This hall was a dead closet in the hallway. It was being used for nothing, maybe a couple brooms, and it's massive. So it was dead space within the outside the apartment, and we now brought it in. So I do encourage you to question what's behind that wall. Is there something we can do to bring in more square footage? So this added value to the property as a whole. This added value to the tenant because now we have in-unit laundry, as well as being off the kitchen can act as a little pantry if they choose to put little shelves here. So this was a huge win for us on this project. And again, I encourage you to think what's behind certain walls, what are changes you can make, and now it extends the kitchen significantly further. Another area in the kitchen that we changed that added a lot more storage and way more functional was this closet. Initially, we had a small little pantry-like thing over here that had a couple shelves. I think it only went to about here because there is a staircase under here that goes to the 3rd floor. So if you look here, you can actually see the steps, or at least part of them. And this allows now for a nice entryway coat closet. You have some storage. It goes pretty far back there if you want to put a couple boxes. Again, it's all about making it more functional for the tenant, not just what looks good, but just what's actually practical to live in. So another area I want to show you where you need to think beyond just the 4 walls you're working with, and is there something you can do to improve the area as a whole, is this bathroom. So initially this bathroom was pretty much just the width of this door and went all the way through. You were essentially stepping over a toilet into the shower. Definitely not to code, whoever built it, but it was what we were working with. So we knew that had to be torn out. Right next to it is the bedroom, which is already huge. Now for reference, this bedroom can fit a king-size bed. So it's already very big. So what we chose to do was to take a little bit of square footage from that bedroom just to give this bathroom not only a little more space, but just to meet code. So we moved this wall that used to be roughly here. We moved it over 1.5 feet or so. And that allowed us to shift the vanity, the toilet, and fit a full 60-inch shower within the bathroom. Now, when we did that, there was a couple structural concerns that we had. So we did end up putting a beam right here that supports one of the main structural beams above. That allowed us to separate out the toilet and the vanity, which I think actually adds a nice little purposeful separation and doesn't look like it was structural at all. Something else, since we are rebuilding this whole wall and restructuring it, is we decided to put a medicine cabinet in. And you may see these in a lot of older homes now, but we thought in this home it'd be perfect because this is already a small 1-bedroom, so as much storage as we can give someone, the better. Something else we do in every bathroom now is glass shower doors. They can get a little expensive, but I think it's to the landlord's benefit and the tenants. From a landlord perspective, it keeps the water in. I've been in apartments where it's just a shower curtain and water gets everywhere, which from a long-term perspective is just going to cause water damage. And then on top of that, when tenants come in to tour the place, or prospective tenants, it does add a big wow value compared to what else they might be seeing. So we always put in glass shower doors now. You can get these off the shelf and install them yourself. That's what I did with this one. You usually don't need a custom one. You could look down that path, but it will be, of course, more expensive. I would encourage you to go look on Home Depot or Lowe's, see what shower doors they might have on sale, and work off that one. Another design feature we did was with the tile on the walls, we did have them go the long ways. The reason for this is not a very tall apartment or bathroom in this case. When you put the tiles like this long ways, it does make the eyes kind of look upwards and accentuates the height of the room. So again, a small detail. The goal was to make someone not feel like they're in a small coffin or anything. We want them to feel like this is a luxurious bathroom or spa-like bathroom in their own home. We also almost always choose to do a shower instead of a tub. The reason for that is, one, a lot of people want the shower, the walk-in shower. And two, it actually saves you, the landlord, money on water if you're paying for those water utilities. Some people would like that tub if it's a family or something. In this case, it is a small 1-bedroom again. And because of that, we knew that it's probably going to be a single person or a couple, not a family. So going into the bedroom now, it's a pretty large bedroom. As I've said before, it does hold a king-size bed, or is designed to do that, despite taking a little bit of space away for the bathroom. The other thing we did in here was we actually took more space away by removing a closet. Initially, there was a door here that would lead into a small closet. On the other side of this wall is another bedroom for another apartment, and that bedroom was even smaller than this and had no space for a closet. So we decided to give that closet to that apartment, and because this bedroom was so large already, we ended up taking a little bit of space away and putting a closet here. Now, it's a little different than you might notice or might see elsewhere. There is a window in your closet. However, not the biggest deal in the world. Again, being in a historic home, we weren't able to change the exterior of the home, and a simple blind there kind of fixes a lot of the problems. We've had tenants in here. No one has ever complained about it. In fact, they love the fact that they have a full-length mirror in their room. Lastly, I want to point out the things you don't see behind the walls. So in this apartment, we got renovated. So we changed the electrical, the plumbing, the heating and HVAC, the insulation, and I just want to highlight those as some of the most important things we did in this apartment, because those are the things as a landlord you're going to really feel the difference on. Those are the things that won't break, won't cause headaches, and just work. For example, plumbing, you won't have issues with potentially burst pipes, or HVAC, you'll always know it's working. We chose to go with mini splits in this particular unit due to the structure of the building. We weren't able to put ducted work, or at least not easily. We could have left put in electrical baseboard, but in this area we knew AC would be a big win for us from a tenant standpoint. So that's what we chose to do. We also made sure all the outlets were in all the appropriate spacing. Nothing's more frustrating as not just a tenant, but anyone living in a home, when you need an outlet somewhere and it's just not a convenient space. So we made sure everything was up to code. You won't have any tripped breakers. And again, if you have a happy tenant that isn't going to have any of these issues, you're not going to get the calls.